Hey guys, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be filming my December wrap-up video and talking about all the books I read in December of 2019. And I think I read 14 books, I'm not 100% sure. I had a list on Goodreads that was my books that I read in December, but I integrated it into a larger master list of all the books I read in 2019, so I'm not 100% sure how many I read, but I'm pretty sure it's 14. I easily could count the stack I have right now, but I really don't feel like it, but I think it's 14, so we're just gonna go with that. So yeah, let's get into the video. I also apologize if I sound a little bit more nasally than usual. I have a really nasty cold right now and I still haven't gotten over it yet, so we're just gonna pretend I don't sound gross. So let's just get straight into the video. So the first book I read in December of 2019 is actually a middle grade book, and that is George by Alex Gino. And this I listened to on audio while I was at work, but I really enjoyed it, so I decided to purchase my own copy. And this is about a girl named George who is trans, and she's really struggling to come to terms with how her brain doesn't match up with her body. And I think this is such an important piece of literature, and I think that anybody from middle grade, the target audience, to an adult can read this and enjoy this, because I think this is such an important and impactful piece of work that I think everyone could read to open up their mind a little bit. It's really short, the audiobook is really short, so anybody can read this, and I just think it's really great. This basically just follows George and her struggles coming to terms with herself and being bullied and harassed for who she is, and I think that this was so important and so impactful, like I said. And this was like bringing me to tears at work, because when kids get bullied in books for being different, like, that just makes me cry, and I was really trying to not cry while I was listening to this at work. So overall, I gave this 4 stars. I loved it. I thought it was super important and super impactful, like I said, and I think that everybody should definitely read this. So the next book I read in December, I actually don't have a physical copy of because I listened to it on audio, and that is Love at First Like by Hannah Orenstein. So if you guys saw my Books I DNF'd in 2019 video, you might have seen me talk about this book. And I didn't really discuss the synopsis in that video because I hadn't yet filmed this video. And this basically is a romance adult novel that follows a girl named, I honestly can't remember what her name is, and I don't feel like bothering to look it up. But anyways, it follows a girl who is a jewelry shop owner, and she owns the shop with her sister. And for fun, she likes to take pictures of herself wearing the engagement rings, and she pretends like she's going to post them. So she basically makes like these drafts on Instagram, and she writes out these entire captions about how happy she is to be engaged and whatever, even though she's not really engaged. She just does it for fun. And one day she accidentally posts one of these engagement photos where she's announcing that she's engaged, wearing one of her nicest rings, and it goes viral. So basically our main character is trying to keep up the act of her being engaged, which is difficult considering she doesn't really have a man in her life and she's not really engaged. So basically this whole entire book is basically her doing whatever she can to try to keep up this facade that she is engaged and about to be happily married. So I actually DNF'd this book at 32%. I thought that the audiobook was really well narrated and it was really upbeat and fun, but I really didn't like the main character because she was basically just manipulating and lying to the people around her in order to keep up this facade, because it was kind of boosting her business and more people were buying things from her jewelry shop because she was going viral because of this post. And so it's basically just like her trying to like self-inflate her ego and her business, and it was just very selfish, and she doesn't really have any like redeeming qualities that would make you maybe want her to go viral and keep up the facade, but it really just didn't work for me. So overall, I just found the main character to be a really compulsive liar, and she only really looked out for herself and just manipulated and lied to everyone around her in order to boost her business and her ego, like I said. And I just could not continue with it, and I think that I like, you know, characters that are unreliable and not great, but as long as they have a redeeming moment or redeeming qualities that kind of make up for it. but this character really didn't, and I just could not look past that. And based on the other reviews I've seen, she doesn't have a redeeming moment at all throughout the entire book, even up till the end. I also did not like the chemistry and the romance because there was none, because, you know, this guy comes into the picture as kind of like a candidate for the faux husband that she has, or faux fiance, whatever you want to call it, and I just did not feel any chemistry with the romance at all, and I just didn't like it. So I mean, if you're looking for something that's really like upbeat and easy to listen to and not a super long audiobook, then I recommend this one. But if you're super picky about your romances like me, or you don't like really crappy characters, then maybe don't read this. But I don't know, it wasn't horrible and it wasn't like the worst book I've ever like tried to read, but I don't know, I just didn't like it, so I DNF'd it at 32%. So the next book I read in December is Winterwood by Shea Earnshaw, and this follows a girl named Nora Walker who is a witch, and her entire family has been a long line of witches, and they all have one ability or underlying, I think they call it a nightshade in this, and Nora has not really harnessed her nightshade, and she lives in the woods in a house that has been passed down from generation to generation in her family. And they live in the woods and are very connected to the woods. Like, they're very, I guess you could say they're almost like elemental witches, in that they live in the woods and are very connected to them. They kind of listen to the trees and everything like that. And one day Nora, in the dead of winter, finds a boy lying in the middle of the Wicker Woods, which are these really creepy woods that you can only enter like once a year, otherwise they will consume you or something and you'll never come out. So basically it just follows Nora's story in the woods after she finds this boy in the Wicker Woods. I'm not sure if I explained that really well, but basically it has to do with witches and winter and a boy that is found in the woods, and he probably should be dead, but he's not. I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think Shea Earnshaw is definitely now one of my favorite authors. I love her writing style. It is so descriptive and poetic, and you can really tell that Shea Earnshaw has like been in the places that she writes about. I don't know if that makes any sense, but she just, like, as a writer, feels very connected to nature and connected to the atmosphere of her stories, that it just feels so realistic and really captivating, and I just can't say enough good things about it. I kind of predicted this was going to be a 5-star because I read The Wicked Deep by her in October, I believe, of this year, and I absolutely love that one as well, so I kind of predicted I was going to love this one, and I did. So if you're looking for an author who writes really witchy, atmospheric stuff, I highly recommend Shea Earnshaw. So yeah. Hello, I'm back from a short intermission because my neighbor was mowing his lawn. But anyways, the next book I read in December of 2019 is probably a book that was my most anticipated book of 2019, and that is Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi, and this is the second book in the Orisha trilogy, and I absolutely love this trilogy so much. It's definitely one of my favorite series of all time, and Tomi Adeyemi is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. So this follows the story of a girl named Zaylee and her village, and her basically entire country of Orisha gets stripped of magic by the monarchy, and she basically goes on this fantastical journey with a bunch of other people to bring magic back to the land. And I absolutely love this series so much. Tomi Adeyemi's writing style is just so amazing and so whimsical and natural, and there are so many themes in here that can be translated to everyday life, even though this is high fantasy, and I just love that about it. So just like the first book in the series, I gave this book a 5-star rating, and I will probably give the third book in the series a 5-star rating too, just because I love the characters. These books are incredibly character driven, and you really just become connected to all of them, even the ones who turn out to be like antagonists. You just love everybody, and I just love the writing and the plot and the adventure and the high stakes, and I just love everything about it. So if you're looking for a West African inspired fantasy series that will rip your heart and soul out, then I highly recommend this one. So yeah, like I said, 5 stars. I can't say enough good things about it, and I feel like I'm gonna sit here for hours and ramble about it if I really got into the intricacies of it, but basically 5-star book, 5-star series. Absolutely love this author, so please try the series out if you haven't already. So the next book I read in December is Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. You've probably seen this pretty much everywhere because it recently got made into a Netflix movie, and I have not watched the movie adaptation yet, but I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really nice. It's basically 3 interconnected holiday romances, and I love reading romance in December because it's such a happy time of year for me, and I love to read happy things. I didn't read as much romance as I thought I was going to, and my TBR switched around a lot in December, but I really did enjoy this one, and it's very short and sweet, and it's really easy to get through. I gave this book a 4-star rating. I think my favorite one was by Maureen Johnson, and then I liked the one by Lauren Miracle, and then John Green last. I thought I would like the John Green tidbit the most because I really enjoy John Green's stuff, but I think that Maureen Johnson's was my first favorite, Lauren Miracle's was my second favorite, and then John Green was my third favorite. But anyways, I thought this was really cute and sweet, and so I gave it a 4-star rating, and I think that if you're looking for something just really fun and easy to read and upbeat, then I highly recommend this one. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So the next book I read in December is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. And like Let It Snow, this is a very upbeat holiday YA romance that I absolutely adored, and I thought it was so much fun. It basically follows Dash and Lily, and Lily leaves a notebook in Strand Books, which is essentially this giant bookstore in New York City, and it has instructions for a scavenger hunt, and at the end it all leads to Dash, who finds the notebook, meeting Lily. And so I just absolutely loved this. I liked Lily as a character a lot. I found her like very whimsical and fun and just, I don't know, spontaneous, and she reminded me a lot of Stargirl from Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli. So she was just very upbeat and fun. Dash is kind of like stoic and like know-it-all, and I don't know, I just absolutely loved this. And I think that if you like you know, hijinks that are absolutely ridiculous and that take place, you know, in a big setting like in the city, I think that you would love this. I think it's just so much fun. And I listened to this one on audio while I was at work, and I just absolutely loved it. It put me in the holiday spirit, and I really liked how this one wasn't insta-love or anything. Like, the romance, like, it evolved slowly across the book. It wasn't, like, super insta-love or anything like that. So I really loved this, and I think this was one of my favorite romances to read this year just because it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so I gave Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan a 4-star rating. The next book I read in December is another middle grade book, and that is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga, and I absolutely love this. This follows the story of a girl named Jude, and she is a Syrian immigrant in America, and it kind of just follows like her struggles with leaving her home that she has known her entire life and coming to a country where she knows virtually nothing, and she is discriminated against because she's Syrian. And I just absolutely adore this book. I think this is another very important middle grade book that a lot of people should read because it just tackles so many important topics. And this is also really beautiful because it's written in prose, and I love books that are written in prose. So I absolutely adored this. I gave this one a 5-star rating, and like I said, very important piece of literature that I think should be read by everybody and anybody, and this is good for any age level. And I also really loved the audiobook. I think it was narrated really well, and I literally cried while I was listening to this at work, and I was just like doing my job and just like crying my eyes out because it was just so moving and so heartwarming and just absolutely amazing. So I highly recommend Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga, and I will definitely be reading more of this author very soon because I just absolutely love her writing style. So yeah. So the next book I read in December is The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand, and this is a Christmas Carol retelling, and this follows the story of a girl named Holly who is very snobby and stuck up, and one day she gets into an accident and then she dies, but doesn't really die because she gets recruited to work at a place called Project Scrooge, where every year everyone in her company basically finds a Scrooge and puts on this whole production to try to get them to not be Scrooges. And I absolutely loved everything about this. Like, the concept was so funny and so original, and despite that, it still managed to be a perfect Christmas Carol retelling with its own like original unique spin. And so I don't know, I absolutely loved this. I gave this one a 4-star rating. I listened to this one on audio, but I really enjoyed it and wanted to have my own physical copy. And this one has a romance. I wasn't 100% fond of the romance in this book. I don't know, I just found it to be like very like insta-lovey in my opinion, but it wasn't like extreme insta-love. Like this was like probably like level 1 insta-love, not like level 5 insta-love. So I don't know, I wasn't in love with the romance, but I really did like Holly as a character because I don't know, she just grows a lot throughout this book, and you really just see her like personal growth and development, and I just really love when a character like has like a big redeeming moment after being like really shitty. So I don't know, I really like this book. Like I said, it's a 4-star book, and I think that although this takes place during the holidays, you could really read this any time of the year. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one and I highly recommend it. So the next book I read, I was actually really nervous to read because this was my favorite book of all time in high school, and I probably read it 4 times throughout my high school career, and that is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And this book I feel like is a pinnacle of the decade in terms of YA books, and I feel like so many people have read and loved this book. And this came out in 2013, and this was just so talked about, and it is still so talked about. This basically follows the story of a girl named Kath and her sister Ren, who are twins, and they both write fan fiction about their universe's equivalent of Harry Potter, and so she writes fan fiction with her twin sister Ren. And basically when Kath and Ren go to college, Kath wants to continue writing fan fiction, but her sister Ren doesn't really want to. And this basically just follows Kath's perspective, but Ren is still a major part of the story. And this book isn't so much plot driven as it is character driven, and this is basically just about what it means to be in a fandom and anxiety and falling in love for the first time and everything like that. So I think that's why this book is so critical to the YA community. I really enjoyed this because I really like the relationship in this. It evolves slowly over time, and it's just so sweet. And I also really enjoyed the LGBT rep because the characters that Kath writes are gay, but they're not originally gay because, like I said, it's the equivalent basically of Harry Potter. So it's basically like if Harry and Draco Malfoy were like a thing. So that's basically like the fan fiction that she writes. And I just absolutely loved this. Like I said, loved the romance, I loved the LGBT rep that it has, and I also really liked how there's anxiety rep in this. Kath, the main character, has anxiety, and I also have anxiety, so it was really refreshing to read about a character who has it as very similarly as I do. I give it a 4-star rating, and I think this was just a really nice trip down nostalgia road, and I don't know, I really loved this. And like I said, this is a very critical book to the YA community, and I think it deserves to be because it's the first kind of book that's like not so much plot driven as it is like, I don't know, character driven, and it has a character who has anxiety, and it has LGBT rep, and it has a lot of family drama and family relationships and like dysfunction and you know, fandom and what that means for like today's age. And so I think this book is very important. So yeah, overall I loved this book, and currently I'm reading the series that Kath writes. Actually, the fan fiction that she writes is basically the 3 books that Rainbow Rowell has released, called Carry On and Wayward Son, and 3rd book hasn't come out yet. But basically that series is the fan fiction that Kath is writing in this book. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, gave it a 4-star rating, and I highly recommend it. So slight change of scenery, I'm wearing a hoodie now because I'm cold, because for the first time in Florida it's a little bit chilly. So anyways, the next book I read or attempted to read in December of 2019 is One Day in December by Josie Silver, and if you guys saw my Books I DNF'd in 2019 video, this book was in it, and if you have not watched that yet, I will link it in the description down below. So anyways, I decided to give Insta-Love another chance. I knew this book was Insta-Love, but you know what? I decided to pick it up anyway. I was like, it's the holidays, this is a romance, I need to give it a chance, and so I got this as one of my Book of the Month picks in my subscription box, which I will link down below if you're interested in the service, which I really love, by the way. This follows the story of a girl named Lori who is on a bus one day, and she looks out the window and sees a guy who she instantly feels a connection to, and then her bus drives away. So basically, this book takes course over 10 years, and basically for the first couple of years after she sees this guy, Lori is like, I need to find this guy, I feel like he's the love of my life, I feel an instant connection to him. And basically 2 years later, at a Christmas party that her and her roommate have, her roommate introduces her new boyfriend to the main character Lori, and her boyfriend is the guy she saw outside of the window 2 years ago. This basically follows the story from there, and I did not like this at all. I DNF'd it at 25%, and I don't know why I decided to give Insta-Love another chance. I don't like Insta-Love. I've never liked Insta-Love, and I thought this was going to be different. I really thought you were going to be different, because this takes place over 10 years. So I was like, okay, even though it's like Insta-Love, it's like a slow burn romance, and I was like, I can give this a shot. But I just didn't like it because, you know, I just don't really truly believe you can look at someone who you know nothing about just because they're attractive and then you're just like, you're the love of my life. Like, I just don't think that's a thing. I'm not like a heartless bastard or anything, but I just really don't believe that you can look at someone who you know nothing about and think that they're the love of your life. I think that's kind of weird. But anyways, so this book basically follows Lori and Jack's perspective, and I did not like Jack at all. Because I found him to be very, very gross. So basically he would constantly compare Lori, our main character, to her roommate Sarah, who he's dating, and he would be like, oh, Sarah's all long hair and curves and sexy, and then Lori's just like the girl next door. And she even referred to Lori as like someone who is like his best friend's sister, like, which is just really gross in my opinion, and I just did not like his perspective at all. Like, I do not want to be inside of an egotistical douchey male brain, no thank you. So anyways, I just did not like this book, and I know some other people like love this book and think it's like the best holiday romance ever, but I just really didn't like it. So like I said, DNF this one at 25%. If you're looking for something like unique in a holiday romance that, you know, it takes place over 10 years like I said, so I feel like that's very unique about it, and if you like love at first sight and stuff like that, I feel like you would like this. But personally, I just didn't really vibe with it, so I am going to be getting rid of this copy, unfortunately. And yeah, so towards the end of December, I wanted to take my reading a little bit slower, so I started reading like shorter books and just trying to like squeeze in some stuff. And so the next thing I read is actually a graphic novel, and that is Amulet by Kazu Kibuishi, and this is book 1, The Stonekeeper. And this is a middle grade YA graphic novel, and it's about a girl named Emily and her brother Navin and their mother, who go through a family tragedy and then move to this house that has like been descended through their family through generations, and they move to it, and one night their mother hears something in the basement and she gets taken away by this scary tentacle monster, and it basically takes Emily and Navin on this like crazy adventure from there. And I absolutely loved this. I gave it a 5-star rating. I absolutely adore the art style, and I actually cried within like the first 15 pages, which I think is pretty amazing to me considering this is just a graphic novel. And I don't know, I cried like a baby, and I absolutely love this. So I had never heard of this until recently. I actually went to my local comic book store and I saw this there and it caught my eye, so I decided to put it on my TBR, but my boyfriend actually got me this copy for Christmas, so I'm really just in love with the series now. I just love everything about this. The art style is so like nice, and I just absolutely adored this, and it's so fantastical and whimsical. And if you like, you know, things with a paranormal element, like if you like the TV show Gravity Falls or Over the Garden Wall, like things that have like a paranormal element, then I think you would really enjoy this. I think anybody of any age level can enjoy this. So the next book I read in December is Tales of the Peculiar by Ransom Riggs, and I actually also got this one for Christmas and started reading it on Christmas. And this is basically a companion novel or novella, whatever you want to call it, to Ransom Riggs' series Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And this is basically like folklore and fairy tales of people with peculiar abilities for people with peculiar abilities. If you aren't familiar with Ransom Riggs' series, it basically follows people who have peculiar abilities. It's definitely way more than that, but I'm just summing it up, and this is kind of like the folklore that goes along with it, and this is like the fairy tales that they would get told when they were kids. So instead of like, you know, fairy tales like Cinderella and everything like that, this is what they were read as children. And so I absolutely loved this. I gave it a 5-star rating. I think that Ransom Riggs is a natural storyteller, and his stories are so fantastical and captivating. and I don't know, I just love his writing so much, and I will continue to read anything that he puts out because I love everything he's ever put out. So yeah, I highly recommend this. I think you don't need to have read the series in order to enjoy this because, like I said, it's just like fairy tales that he came up with that have like creepy paranormal things going on in it. So I don't know, I absolutely loved this. Like I said, 5 stars, and I don't think you need to have read his series in order to enjoy this. So the next book I read was purely read for nostalgic reasons, and I was not planning on reading this at all. And that is Blizzard of the Blue Moon by Mary Pope Osborne, and this is a Magic Treehouse book. This is number 36 in the series. And I actually came upon this because my boyfriend and his mom were cleaning out like their storage area in the back of the house, and he found a bunch of his old childhood books. And I saw this one and I really wanted to read it because it takes place in winter and it's got a unicorn, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm reading this for nostalgic reasons. Like, okay. This book is just so pretty. Like, do you guys see all that glitter on there? And then underneath the dust jacket, it's purple and it has an embossed silver unicorn. Like, okay, Magic Treehouse, I see you coming through with the aesthetics. I just really loved this. I gave it a 5-star, obviously, because this was so nostalgic, and I just love to see Jack and Annie back in action, saving unicorns from evil people. And I don't know, if you haven't read Magic Treehouse, I'm sorry. This is one of the best series for children of all time. I absolutely love it. It's basically about a boy named Jack and a girl named Annie who are brother and sister, and they go on these adventures in their magic treehouse that take them to different places and times in history. And it's definitely a children's book. I'm not gonna downplay that, like, but it's freaking good. The writing style might be a little simple because obviously it's made for children, but you know, if you want to pick up one of these every now and then just for nostalgic reasons and just to like read something short and light, then hell yeah, read some Magic Treehouse. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with reading children's books or middle grade books or whatever you want to read. Like, whatever you're feeling, just read it, you know? There's no age limit on any books. Just read whatever the hell you want, whenever you want. So the last book I read in December, I don't have a physical copy of, and that is Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven. So I was looking for something to listen to at work. It was towards the end of the year. It was approaching New Year's. I just wanted something to listen to, you know, at work, just something casual. And so I decided to pick up Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven, and I rented it from my library. I didn't really know anything about it. I just know that people love Jennifer Niven. She's also the author of All the Bright Places, which is one of her probably most popular books, I think, is out there, and everyone loves that book or hates that book. So her work is very polarizing, and upon reading this book, I figured out why. So like I said, I listened to this book on audio, and the audiobook isn't bad. It started out pretty decent, but as the book went on, it just got worse and worse. I DNF'd this book at 87%, so I was really close to the end, and I could have finished this in like an hour or two, but I just could not bring myself to finish it. So it's basically about a girl named Libby who is basically named America's Fattest Teen because she weighed so much at one point that she literally had to be like cut out of her house and lifted out with a crane. I literally knew nothing about this book going into it, and I don't think I would have picked it up if I had known what it was about because it just doesn't sound appealing to me. And basically it just follows Libby after she like loses some weight and she goes back to school, and then she like falls in love for the first time with a boy named Jack who is face blind. Like, he can't memorize faces, so even people he loves and is close to, he doesn't immediately recognize because he's face blind, which is called prosopagnosia, I believe. So basically, I had a couple issues with this book. First is that I hated the romance because at one point Libby was like, I hate Jack, he's such a fat phobic asshole, and then she was like, I want to have his children. And so I don't know how it happened so quickly, but it did. It went from 0 to 100 real quick, and as you guys know, don't like insta love, so I was not on board for that. I also hated Jack as a character because he was overall a douche and he didn't have any redeeming qualities that might make you want him to be happy and fall in love. I certainly didn't. I don't know. I saw what this book was trying to do. Like, it was trying to be like this super powerful, heartwarming, moving, impactful book about fat phobia and overcoming that, and a character who is like strong-willed and like gets over that. But it just didn't do it. It was so cringy, and like there's so many events that happen throughout this book that are absolutely ridiculous to the point where you can't even believe it a little bit. Like, the main character Libby has really bad anxiety. Like, she'll have panic attacks and stuff like that just from like going to the grocery store, but for some reason she stands in the middle of the busiest hallway in school wearing a purple bikini, writing impactful words on her stomach so that everyone will see it and think she's so powerful and not affected by their bullying, which is just completely unreasonable. And I can't even think of an instance where I've heard of anyone doing anything like that. Not to say that nobody could ever do that or nobody has ever done that, but personally, to read about, it was absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think someone with a severe anxiety as Libby has would be able to do that. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. This book was just so unrealistic in so many ways. And also, I see what people mean when they say that Jennifer Niven's characters become their illnesses or hardships. Like, I feel like, why does every character need to have a dead or dying parent? Why does every character need to have some life-crippling disorder or something like that in order to make the story relevant or interesting? Like, I just don't understand that. Like, why can't you just have characters who, yeah, have hardships, because obviously everyone has hardships, but why do they have to become that and be that? And I don't know, I just found that besides Libby being plus size and besides Libby having a dead mom, she didn't have any personality at all. And Jack, besides his face blindness and his dad dying of cancer, he had no personality. And so it's like, they are the illnesses and hardships that they have. Like, they have no personality outside of that. And I really have no desire to read All the Bright Places, because from what I've heard, that book does the exact same thing. So I can't believe I started and ended my reading year of 2019 by DNFing a book. So I don't know, I was just super disappointed by this, and I wrote a pretty lengthy Goodreads review for this, so if you want to see that full review, I'll link my Goodreads down below. But oh man, I did not like this at all. So yeah, like I said, I DNF'd this at 87%. I don't think that it achieved what it was trying to do, which, like I said, is be like this impactful story about overcoming fat phobia and everything like that. I just think that it ended up being really cringy, and the insta-love was just not good. There was no chemistry with the romance, and it just escalated way too quickly, and I don't think anxiety was represented here in a good way. So overall, like I said, DNF'd 7%, and I don't ever want to read any of Jennifer Niven's other work ever again, so yeah. I'm sorry that I ended this video on kind of a sour note, but I was going in order, like, by how I read them in December, like from the first book I read to the last book I read, and Holding Up the Universe was the last book I read, so I just went in order, and I'm sorry I ended on a sour note. But anyways, I think that concludes my December wrap-up video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss a single upload. And leave a comment letting me know what books you read in December, what you liked, what you didn't like. Let's just have a chat in the comments down below. So thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye!